Okay.
So that's why we should not write any query in the models. So when the models, we need to create the, we need to write the object-based modeling, so that we will see what kind of object modeling will be there in the Python Django. So this is the Django documentation. So why we are main important that we do with the object modeling means object relationship modeling means. So when we do like this, so we no need to require to write any queries. So if we write, for example, if I write any query for MySQL, so we can, that application will work only for the MySQL database. So in the future, if we want to change to MongoDB or some any other Oracle DB, any other DBs, so it will not work because that queries are not same. So you need to, in the application, you need to change the queries. So instead of that, by using this Django framework, so we can develop the models based as a class and object based. We can develop and we can query the each table rows and everything. So whatever we write the queries, so that same time we can write a script. So because so that time, whatever in the future, if we change to any database like other than MySQL, now we are trying with the MySQL. If we want to do, if we want to integrate or migrate to some any other database, it is very easy. Just we need to change the settings configuration. So that settings configuration also we have seen that. So in the settings configuration, we need to set the database type and everything. Okay, this is a different project. So let me open my project. So this here we set up the database thing. So here we set up the just a SQLite tree. So in our another application, we set up the MySQL. So that we will see. So this is the one simple table we have created. So when we are creating a table means, so we need to extend to models.model class. So that time, so the student will be created as a table. So when we do the make migration and when we migrate it, so it creates the table in the database. So whatever the in the settings, what kind of database we have integrated in the settings, so that same thing will come. For example, here we have set up the MySQL database. So we have added the engine and the database name and then the user and password to log into that MySQL connection. And this is the host. So if it is a remote host, we should give the remote IP. So, but this database I am running in my same system. So the host will be the local host. So and the port will be the default. It is a 3306. So in the same way, if it is a MongoDB, so there is a different configuration.
Okay, sir.
So this is a one simple table they have written. So it means that they extend the models.model and they have created the two attributes, first name and last name. so that they have given the char field. Okay, so this when we do the migrations, we get the equivalent query. So if it is a MySQL, it creates the query like this. So what it is doing, so it is creating the table, and my app is the app name and then the class name. So after that, ID will be default, it will create the ID. So after that, there will be a two fields. So first name and last name. So like this, it creates the queries. So if it is a different database, so it creates a different type of query. And there is a foreign key. So foreign key, we know that. So it's a second normal forms. So in the normal forms in the database, there is a normal forms. First normal form, second normal form, third normal form. So like that, up to 5, 6 normal forms we used to apply. So first normal form is the primary key. So the primary key will be automatically created by Django as a ID. So that is a auto incremented, and it is the unique value, so that we don't create anything in the when we are creating the class. So the foreign key is, so it is the uh, it is the second normal forms. So in the database, if you know, if you are aware of that normal forms, it is a second normal form. So what it will do, so if for example music is a one table and album is one table, so music object or else music primary key, we can set it here. So means, so this music will come to which album. So that same music, sorry, this is a musician. So that same musician will come to some song albums. So, but he can repeat in so many albums, not a single album. So if it is a constraint like only a single album, only one musician will be there. So then we can make it as a unique constraint, means one-to-one field. So one-to-one field means it's like a similarly primary key, or else it is the unique field of this album. So but when we are going to do the foreign key means, so the musician will be the uh, he can be a musician for the multiple albums. It means that multiple rows. So when there is a multiple rows, so there is a three albums. For example, A album, B and C. So in the A and B album, so the same musician can repeat. So that time we use the foreign key, so that just we take the musician ID and we place it in the artist column. So that let's try for that foreign key in our project. So for student class, I am going to create a class for subject. Models dot model. After that, I need to create for that subject which student has, or else I will create a so that student can have a multiple subjects. So that's why I'm going to make as a student as a foreign key models dot. So if you just type after the dot .fo, so we get the what are all the functions are there. So there is a foreign key, and when we are creating the foreign key, we need to set the on delete and also the model name. So which model we are going to make it as a foreign key. So student, and then we need to set the on delete. So it means that, so when this object is going to delete, so this foreign key also it should get delete. So there will be a constraint like that. Uh, it is the actual rule. So because if somebody is going to delete this student object, so he has to delete that subject. So means that student which he belongs to the subjects also, it needs to delete. If we don't delete that, so then there will be a student details here, but we don't have a student complete details. In the student table, we don't have the that student data. So then we miss his data like a name, date of birth, time. So these are all the column values. We don't get it. So that's why we need to make it as a on delete cascade. So on delete model start cascade. So when we do like this on delete, so once this, if the student object is going to delete, so it should delete all the dependent sub in the subject. So which are the students are which student is going to delete. So that same student belongs to the which are all the subjects. He has to be deleted in this child table also. So and then we are just creating the some more fields. So subject name, model start, char field, max length. So max length means it is a varchar. So in the varchar, in the MySQL, we give some values. So the character length. So that is the character length 20. Subject name, and then subject author. So when we give the char field, we should set the maximum length of the character. So now this it is created one model. So let's execute this. So when we create the subject, we should create the make migration and make migrate. So that time only it creates the subject table in the database. So for example, so before that my MySQL should be run. So I will just run the MySQL service. So now my MySQL service is running now. So let's open the workbench. So now I will run the command python manage.py make migration. So after run this, it shows the migrations for the Polls app. So in that Polls app, subject.py. So it means it's create the model of the subject. So whatever we have created, we just define the class. So for this class, it created the script. It means it just created the script. It is not created the table in the MySQL. So even we can see that. So this is the student. So I just refreshed also. But if you see the tables, so only polls student is there. So but subject table has not been created. So we need to run the migrate. Python manage.py migrate. So then the migrations are applying. So after applying the migrations, it successfully create the table. So if you get any error, so it will not, it would have not created the table. So that's why it throws any exceptions or errors. So I just refreshed it. So now we can able to see polls subject. So there is a subject. So here we can able to see ID, subject name, subject author, and student ID. So student ID, this is the foreign key of that student class. So now let's access this in the front end. Let's run the queries to create the objects. Okay, here for creating the object also, I just add for the student.objects.all. This will just fetch the student objects. So here I write a query to insert the object. So I'm going to create the subject. So we need to mention the class name. So it is showing in the red mark. So because the class is not imported, so we need to import this from the models. So then now the subject model has been imported. So now we can check if it should get the empty query. So we should run this landing page to know this. So what I will do, so I will run in the debug mode. Okay. So now I am running in the debug mode. So the debugger is stopped. So here we can able to see the student objects. So if you see the student objects, so there is a two student objects. So it means that there is a two students are there. Okay. For the first student, I wanted to create the subject. So now let's see. So this subject is a empty query set. So there is no rows in the table. So that's why even if I call this objects.all, so I'm just getting a empty. So now first I will insert some value. So to insert to the subject column, you object of, and we need to mention the column names and then the values. So how many columns are there? Student, student subject name, and subject author. Student equals to. So what I will do, so whatever it is coming in the objects, so I will just objects of 0. So I am just inserting to the first user, and then the subject name. I just insert as a Kannada, and then the subject author. And just to give a group. So after that, we need to save this. So then only it will insert the value to the table. So now let's see. So here we are not passing any ID for the ID and all we will not pass actually. So for example, I will show you. So here, so when there is a foreign key, when we are writing any SQL query, so for the foreign key, so we used to pass the ID, primary key of the student, right? Primary key of the student table we used to pass. So but here we need to pass the object. So means this whatever you query and you get the student object, so that object we need to pass it here in the foreign key column. So that's why I am passing the first student object. Okay, and subject name I am giving Kannada, and subject author I am giving Guru. So let's debug and we'll see. So what happens. So now if you see this student object of 0, so this first student will be should insert. So let's see in the student table. So first one is the Guru. So this is the first object. So the object has been saved successfully. If there is any error, it throws the exception. If there is any not properly passing the values or objects for the foreign key, so it throws the error. So now it is saved. So now we can check it in the SQL. So here the data has been inserted. So now let's insert one more data for the next student. That same subject and for the same author. So again, we need to reload this. So object has been saved. So now if you check, so there is a student 2. So now I create a one more new subject, English. Author Shankar. Something I had given. So for the same second student only, I just create. So object is saved. So now if I execute, so now we can able to see. So third row, so which is showing the subject author and subject is the English. So but the student ID is it's repeating. So when we make a foreign key, so for the same student, he can be belongs to the multiple subjects. So that's why we make the student as a foreign key. So now the data is also inserted. So now let's fetch the, now just check how to fetch the foreign by foreign key value, how we can able to fetch the subject object. So now I am going to fetch all the first student objects. First student, all the rows. So first I need to mention the table, sorry, table name. After that, objects. After that, we need to add the filter. So here in MySQL, we used to write a query as like a where condition. So in the where condition, we have to compare the column and value. So in the same way, we have, if you want to filter anything, so if you want to do such kind of where condition, we need to use the filter. So subject dot objects dot filter. So which column we are going to filter is student. So here also we need to pass the object, not the ID. Okay, so here we should pass the student object. So for that student object, how many rows are there in the subject table? It will return all the values. So now let's debug and see the result. So now we can able to see, so the query set is only one subject. So it means it is having only one value. So the student one, which he belongs to only one subject. So let's check with the student two now. So I just changed the second object. So now we can able to see the query set two objects. So query set, it is having the two subject rows because student 2 he is having the two subjects. He belongs to the Kannada and he belongs to the English subjects. So like this, we need to create the foreign key and we can able to filter, and also we have seen that how to insert the values if there is a foreign key in the table. And what are the field types we are going to use? So and there is a choice field. So when we are going to create a choice field, so we need to create the sets like this. So after this, so after created, we need to mention it in the column. So for example, shirt size. So instead of this, I will make it as a book size. Small, medium, and large. So for this, we need to create a column. So this is just a value